Do you ever feel like your boss intimidates you? Not loudly, not obviously, but in that quiet way. A look during a meeting, a comment that sticks with you for days. That feeling of always having to watch what you say, making sure you don't say the wrong thing. That underlying tension as soon as certain people walk into the room. And maybe you know this too. You work hard, you put in the effort, you prepare yourself, but others seem to rise to the top effortlessly, even though everyone senses that they manipulate, belittle, or emotionally destroy people. Why does that happen? Why if it's so often the most ruthless who win? And why do empathetic people suddenly feel weak, insecure, or drained in such systems? Maybe it's because some people operate by completely different psychological rules. People who don't see power as responsibility, but as control. People who can seem charming and still instill fear. People who don't feel guilt the way others do. That's exactly what this book is about. Why assholes always float to the top. Not much substance, but a lot of buoyancy. I wanted to understand why certain personalities keep rising to the top, even though many people intuitively sense that they're not good for others. Why is it that it's often not the most empathetic or self-reflective people at the top, but the loudest, most ruthless, or most manipulative? The longer I spent dealing with this topic, the clearer it became to me the problem isn't just certain individuals. The problem is often the systems that reward exactly this kind of behavior. Because in many companies, self-promotion counts more than substance, dominance more than empathy, and volume more than content. And that's how a dangerous dynamic develops. People with a conscience hesitate, people without a conscience act. Some people reflect, others just go for it. That's why the book is about toxic personalities, narcissists, Machiavellians, psychopaths in suits. Not as Hollywood stereotypes, but as people who work right among us. They often come across as controlled, intelligent, and confident. And that's exactly what makes them so hard to spot. I always use the image of a shark to describe this. The shark isn't loud. It observes, analyzes weaknesses, waits patiently, and moves through the system without any inner friction. That's precisely what makes these people so dangerous. They often act without guilt, without doubt, and without any emotional breaks. And while empathetic people are still wondering if they might hurt someone, others have already decided how to use the room to their advantage. But this book isn't meant to scare you. On the contrary, because fear often arises where we sense things but don't understand them. But if you recognize why some people manipulate, why they need power, why they belittle others, why they confuse control with strength, then their behavior loses some of its power over you. Understanding doesn't mean accepting, but understanding helps you protect yourself. Maybe that's actually the most important message of this book. You don't have to change toxic people, but you should learn to recognize them early on, because those who understand the rules of the game are harder to manipulate. And sometimes that very understanding is the first step back to inner peace. The book, Why Assholes Always Float to the Top, full of hot air, short on substance, isn't just a takedown of toxic personalities. It's an attempt to understand why modern systems so often reward exactly those people who emotionally harm others, and how you can learn not to let them intimidate you.